Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. I am Dr. Jackie the PA, and if this is the first time you are on my channel, I welcome you. I hope you find something that you like, something where you're like, ooh, she's interesting, where you comment, share, all of that, subscribe to my channel. And if you are a returning viewer, I say this every single time because I absolutely mean it, like legit mean it from the bottom of my heart. You're the real MVP because you didn't have to return. And look at you here with me again, and I appreciate it. It's been a minute, and by a minute I mean it's been a long time since I have made a YouTube video, and I wish I had like a super good excuse or super great reasons as to why, but maybe my reasons are great enough, like they are what they are. The number one reason I have not made a video in a long time is because life has been lifing, right? I don't know if Mercury was in retrograde, the full moons, half moons, eclipses, whatever, everything that's been going on. I feel like life has been extraordinarily busy, and it takes time to make a video. And then I am my own worst critic, where I get inside my head and I am highly scrutinized. And like right now, there's this bump here that why I am 41 and I am too old to be getting pimples, but here we are. Here we are with a pimple. And then if I look like if I'm not somewhat together, like this is not my best together, right? If you're following me on social media, you see I can get it together. But I'm also critical of that. I'm like, hey, I don't be feeling like I look my cutest, and I start telling myself, oh, people aren't gonna want to watch my videos because I don't look as cute as I be looking all the time. But I need to stop that, right? Because I am one of those people who give great advice. I am a great advice giver. However, I don't always take that advice, and I need to stop, right? Because the information that I have is important to share. Anyway, I wanted to hop on here and make this video because I was motivated by a talk that I did. So this is when I say life is life, and I'm busy. I have things that I have the opportunity of doing, and I got to speak at the Medical College of Wisconsin to undergraduate students from underrepresented and minority groups and talk about my career path. And I was like, have I ever ran y'all through the reel as to how I got from where I was to where I am? So today would be a great day for me to share that story. I actually should have shared it last week or maybe earlier, but I didn't. So here you go. Before I get started, I need to say, put this disclaimer out here that these views and opinions and thoughts and how I tell my stories, my whole entire channel, these are totally reflective of my views and my views only, okay? This is not, these views are not shared by any current or previous employer. This is me talking to y'all, okay? So, I'm going to tell y'all how I told them, and I give you a little bit more context. So I actually did this talk for the first time last summer, and I believe that I was part of the earlier presenters because they have different people come in and talk about their career paths. And I was the favorite. So what happens is if you are an engaging and relatable speaker, you're people's favorites, and then nobody else can hold a candle to what you've done. And that's what happened to me. So this time they asked me to be the last speaker because I'm the best. I am the best, y'all. But no, I don't think it's necessarily on how I speak technically, because if you watch my channel, you can see that I don't have the most proper English all the time. And I think what makes my story relatable is that I am a real person. I am a real person, okay? And I'm telling y'all all the things that everybody else is not telling you. You're not going to get no sanitized view. You're going to get what it is. All right, so we are at the 4-minute and 28 mark where I'm actually going to get into the story. So for those of you who do not know, I am a doctoral-educated physician associate, or physician assistant for those who do not know what a physician associate is. I have been a PA for 12 years, 13 years. Wait, this is 2024. 13 years. Board certified PA for 13 years. Prior to working as a PA, I worked as a registered nurse, and prior to that, I worked as a CNA. I reside in a great old state of Wisconsin, and it's not the most diverse. Last statistics that I've checked, 6% of the population was Black. And growing up in the inner city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I did not see a Black nurse or a Black doctor until I was a senior in high school. And growing up, a lot of people told me I was going to be a doctor. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, sure. And I attribute that to me being super studious. I was that straight A student, occasional B. I was very inquisitive. I asked a lot of questions, and I really cared about humans, like, and how I just care about people. It may not seem that way, but I I have a real big heart for humans. So, growing up, I always have to provide the other context that I'm a first generation college student. I was raised by a single mom. We grew up in poverty, and when you grow up in poverty, you are usually hanging around other people who don't got money. So you live a good life because you don't know you're poor until you find out you're poor. But we grew up in the inner city. My mom and her generation, they did not attend college. So I was the first person in my family to do so, with obstacles of, you being raised in a single parent household, growing up in poverty. And then I was also a teenage mom. So I got pregnant with my son my senior year of high school. And I actually, oh my gosh, I got kicked out of the first high school that I was in for fighting. So this is before I was pregnant. So when I'm painting this picture to you, a lot of people see me and they're like, oh my gosh, you got it all together. And I was like, yes, I do, because I can put a cute picture together, but there's some story behind here. So in my sophomore year of high school, I was attending school out in the suburbs, got kicked out of high school for fighting, expelled. I then attended high school in the city of Milwaukee, which was it was considered one of the worst high schools, like where the bad kids went, because people would fight, and it was in the hood, and people may have or may have not been to jail. Like, it was a rough area. And the thing about me is, like, yeah, I attended school in the suburbs for a bit, but I always lived in the hood. Like, I was bussed out to the suburbs. Anyhow, I go to North Division High School, class of 2001. Hello, Blue Devils. And I remember when I first was going, people were like, oh my gosh, you're going to get beat up because you taught too much. But see, I had hands too. Sorry, I digress. Anyway, so I get kicked out of high school. I go to this other high school. My senior year of high school, I end up pregnant. Now, despite all of that, I was always that person that did their homework. I was always that person that was striving for an A. I wanted to be smarter than what I was the day before. My goal was to graduate at the top of my class. And when you're pregnant and I talk about my relationships and my career path, because our relationships impact how we make decisions. And what I learned from that is we can't allow that to be a hindrance. We cannot allow our relationships to take us away from our calling and where we're supposed to go. So growing up, I did not think I was going to be working in healthcare like that. I mean, people said I was going to be a doctor, but I had other dreams. Like, I wanted to be part of Destiny's Child, right? Because, see, during my time, there was an opportunity, because I could sing a little bit, right? And there was an opportunity where I could have been Michelle. I could have been Michelle, y'all. Not Farrah, because Farrah got kicked out. But anyway, that didn't come to be. I thought maybe I wanted to be a dentist, because the high school that I graduated from had a dental assistant program as well as a nursing assistant program. So the nursing was like in the back of my mind, but that dental assistant program, I thought, oh, we can make a lot of money being a dentist. Problem was, I don't like spit and I don't like mouths. So there went that career. So I take the nursing assistant class, and I'm like, okay, I'm pregnant. And at the time, part of my thinking was, I need to be in a field where I can provide a good income and not grow up in poverty, because I grew up in poverty. That's not what I wanted. And I wanted to give my son the best chance possible. He didn't ask to be here. I was not doing everything I should have, and I'm pregnant, so I need to grow up and make these great decisions, right? So I take the nursing assistant class, and it's actually taught by my best friends, my current best friend right now, her mom, who was the first Black nurse I had ever seen, like face to face. So she was a flight nurse, and I was just so impressed and saw myself in that role. I saw this as a possibility for me because I saw her. So this is the importance of representation. It's not it's not getting people into spaces that who aren't qualified for the spaces. It is getting people into spaces that should be in the spaces, and they need to have a place of comfort or some reassurance that they belong. So anyhow, I take this nursing assistant class. I'm like, oh, I could be a nurse, but I need to be a nurse as soon as possible, right? Like I need to be a nurse fast because I got this baby that's coming and I need money. So I was like, I'm gonna get my associate's degree first because at the time, and when I graduated my associate's degree, that was in 2003. At the time, there wasn't this big push for having a bachelor's degree unless you wanted to go into management. And I was like, well, I don't want to manage grown people, so I'm cool on that. We took the same board, so I've only taken my nursing boards that time after I finished my associate's degree program, and you got paid the same unless you were working at like the VA, and I wasn't. I was working at a nonprofit hospital in the city. So I graduated nursing school. I had my kid, I had my son my senior year of high school, 3 months before graduation to be exact. And I graduated valedictorian from my high school. So that is also a testament to it is not about where you come from or what obstacle you're facing. You can still do great things, right? So I graduated valedictorian and now I'm off to college. I'm going to be a nurse. I'm at a private university and I'm going to get my associate's degree and be a nurse. So I do all that, graduate, make it. And I think I'm living a good life because honestly, I was making more money than anybody in my family that I knew of legally. And I was making more money than any of my friends. I was 20 years old and I had an associate's degree and I could push morphine. I could give medications to patients. I couldn't go to the liquor store and buy anything, but I had made it, right? So I felt like I was there. I have arrived at my goal. My son is not going to have to grow up in poverty. I was making $20.25 per hour. I remember that because that was like, it's such a vivid memory. It was something that changed my life, right? Like I could help send money to my mom and help with my younger siblings if they needed things. So I felt like I was in a position that this is great. So at the time, I'm still with my son's father, and we were young. Okay, so I'm big. I'm a big pusher of like when you're young and you think you're in love, you only know love from a certain perspective, and yeah, that can impact how you make decisions. But anyway, we end up breaking up when I'm like, I think I was 21. I was 21. And I'm still working as a nurse. I'm living good, and I never wanted to. Remember, I never wanted to get my bachelor's because I didn't want to get to management. But after some time of working as a registered nurse, I was really good at protocols. I worked in the ER. I worked on the cardiac pulmonary floor. I was good at executing the orders, and I knew a high level understanding as to why certain things were done, but I needed to know the why. Like, why was this decision made? Why are we treating pneumonia this way for this patient and this way for this other patient? Like, what's the difference about these drugs? And I wanted to know why. And I'm like, shoot, I'm going to have to get that bachelor's degree so I can get this master's degree, right? Because my goal was never to get the bachelor's. And my goal was to figure out what next step would I be able to do to have a better understanding as to why I was doing things I was doing in medicine, because I loved taking care of people. So I look into what the options can be. Now, at the time, so during this time period, making this decision to go on and I need to get this bachelor's, I decided to do an accelerated program. It was 1 day a week for 2 years. I go through a breakup, I go through, and then I meet a new person, then I get married. And this is how I talk about your relationships can impact your decisions. At the time, I was thinking, well, I can't go to medical school. Like, what's going to be my end goal with this bachelor's? Medical school, I know I'm going to end up divorced because I'm the type of person that if I am studying something, if I am doing something, working towards a goal, I put everything into that and focus there. So I go on and I decide, okay, what about nurse anesthesia, right? Because I didn't want to be a nurse practitioner. As I was going through my bachelor's program, I was so frustrated with the amount of nursing theory that I paid for at the bachelor's level. Again, remember, I didn't have to retake my boards because I already had my nursing license. So I decided I'm going to be a nurse anesthetist. That required me to transfer out of the ER, which I had a love for the ER as a nurse. I just love the pace. I love the fleeting relationships with my patients. and I love the broad skill set that I gained. So I really love that, but I knew in order to work in as a nurse anesthetist, you needed to get ICU experience. So I transferred to the ICU, and it's a different way of thinking, because how I would describe ER nursing, it was they're going to 1 of 3 places, is what one of my preceptors told me. That patient is going to die, they're going to get admitted, or they're going to get discharged home. You only had 3 dispositions, right? And I was like, oh, and it was really simple. And they didn't stay with you forever. But in the ICU, that consisted of a lot of personalities that were very, very type A. Like, I'm type A minus B plus. I am particular about certain things, but I am very much this is what it is. This is what it's going to be. I'm going to help you get to one end of the spectrum or the other. So, I work in the ICU as a nurse, and yeah, it was fine. It was fine for what it was. And during that time, remember, I'm in a new relationship. I get married. I'm young. I got married at 23. 23? Yes. I got married at 23. And it was part of my plan, meaning like I had a before 30 plan. So I need to insert here my before 30 plan, which consisted of me getting a master's degree, getting married, having another kid, buying a house. And for the record, I achieved all those things by 27. But I say that to say, like, look, don't let these big goals of timelines, don't make these timelines be your downfall, in the sense of, like, don't make decisions only based on timelines and just checking the box. Try and dig more into why and what are you learning from the process, because I didn't do that. But anyway, so I decided nurse anesthesia is going to be it. Now I'm pregnant, and I'm pregnant with twins. Cool, right? That's not stopping the show. I graduated high school valedictorian after having a baby. I can do this. I can make this next set of goals, right? Because it's going to be nurse nurse anesthetist. They made a lot of money. They had a lot of science. It wasn't a lot of hand-holdy type stuff. So I go on and I make I go to Rosalind Franklin University's like open house, and I'm making my plans, right? I'm putting everything in order. I'm taking the science classes that I know I needed to get my to be able to get into nurse anesthesia school at that time. And at 24 weeks pregnant, I ended up being put on bed rest for the rest of my pregnancy. I was still completing my bachelor's, so I had it all mapped out in the timeline, right? And it was like real bed rest. Like, I couldn't work. I was in the bed. I had to beg to not be on bed rest in the hospital. And it was a setback in a way of, and when I look back on it now at 41 versus 20, at the time I was like, 24? Yeah, 24 when I had my kids, so 23, 24. I had the twins. I just felt devastated. I felt like, oh my gosh, I had this all planned out perfectly, and it is not working out how I had it planned. And what am I going to do now? And so, I still felt like I was going to do it, and I shadowed a nurse anesthetist, and that was what really shifted things, right? It wasn't, oh my gosh, and my plans just have gone out the window because of bed rest. It was that I went to shadow a nurse anesthetist, and that was the most boring job for myself. Now, there are people where they would thrive and be fine in that environment. No, I was like, oh my gosh, this job is actually pretty boring, even though you can make a lot of money. And it's not, I can't see myself doing this forever. So I go on and I am like really reevaluating my life, because I'm on bed rest. I can't do anything else but think, watch TV, and figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So I do entertain the thought of medical school again, but then I go back in my head and I'm like, if I do that, I am going for sure to get divorced, because going through PA school as a married person, I know that my approach in being successful, I just know it wouldn't work for me, right? But anyway, I was gonna get divorced, and so I decided I'm gonna be a PA because I was working in the ER, and there was a PA that said, "Hey, you should go to PA school," and I was like, "What's a PA?" So I had never heard of a PA until I had been working as a nurse, and it wasn't even anything that crossed my radar. Now, I had taken some of the classes. I looked at what the requirements were to be admitted to PA school. And at the time, so this is 2008. 2008 is when because that's when I started PA school. And not everybody was on the centralized application process, so not everybody was on CASPA, but there was a paper application. So I attended Marquette's PA school. And when I applied at the time, they still had paper applications. And I feel like I'm just dating myself. But yes, they had paper applications. It was a 3-year program at the time, because now they're 2 years. And certain classes were recommended. So I had never taken organic chemistry. I had never taken physics. And most of the schools that I saw for PA school required those classes. And I was like, well, it's only recommended for Marquette. If I get in, I don't have to worry about it. But if I don't, I'll just take those classes afterwards. I have a job as an RN. I make money. It's cool. I'll be good. So I applied with no pressure on myself, right? Like I get invited to the interview. I felt like the interview was pretty chill. They had the good cop, bad cop situation going on. And I saw that other people were really freaked out about this decision working out for them. And I was just kind of like, I guess I have a job, but it's not that. If I get in, I'm super excited. If I don't, I'm just going to, make sure my application's better and apply again. That was my take on it. And maybe that worked for my good, for the betterment of me. I believe that things work in a way that is not always clear to us, but there's something that is coming of it at the end at some point, right? We may not be able to see it while we're in the midst of it, but everything happens for a reason. And I feel that I did not, I was put on bed rest to learn to sit down sometimes and really evaluate my actions and my motives. And then I wasn't able to go the nurse anesthesia route, because that's not where God, the universe, my ancestors wanted me to be. They wanted me to have a better, more direct impact on patients who were awake. And I can say I definitely have done that as a PA. So anyhow, I get accepted to Marquette's PA program. I was like, oh, they let me in, y'all. They let me in. And I'm being completely honest. I got there, and it was one of the most difficult things I had to do, because I dealt with a lot of, now they have the term imposter syndrome, but I did feel like I just didn't belong. I was Black person number 5 out of those classes by the time I was there. And I had started my cohort with another Black guy, a Hispanic guy, and then by the time the second year started, I was the only minority level. It just felt like this pressure that can't really be spoken to someone who was not a minority, but it was like the pressure to make it happen for everyone. And then I had moments where I felt like people were questioning if I was really qualified to be there. And I say that because these are things you just don't forget. So in my class at the time, they only had 50 students. It went down to 40 something. And I was the only one that was married with children. There were other people that were married, but I was the only one that had children. I had 3 children. So the time I started PA school, my son was 7 and the twins were 1. Because I was insane. Because if you ask me to do that now, I don't know how it would happen. But I make it through school. But I had a lot of doubt, because I'm not somebody who does rote memorization. Like, I know my weaknesses, I know my strengths. I'm very good at application and putting the big picture together. Like, don't just give me pieces and just be like, memorize. That's not how my brain goes. Unless it's a song lyric, it needs to be like to a beat. But and I found that first semester of the first year challenging, because I'm like, I don't just memorize stuff for the sake of memorizing. What's the point of me memorizing? I need to connect it to something. And I got my lowest GPA, which was a 3.2, and I'm pretty sure people counted me out. And I know that doesn't sound low to people, but if you saw my progress report, that was an improvement, because my progress report, I had like all these C's and like 1A in medical terminology. But I make it through the program. I graduate cum laude. I remember not being asked to be on people's Challenge Bowl teams until they posted the Dean's List, right? Because I did my work and I created a system that worked for me, knowing the life that I had. So, and my relationship at the time went through the ringer, because I was really focused on accomplishing this goal. I'm a big believer in short-term pain for long-term gain, and I did what I had to do, and I was a great mom throughout it all, though. And I graduated cum laude. I made it on the dean's list every semester after that first semester, every semester afterwards. And then they started posting the dean's list because I never said anything, but I had my system, like I said, I would, and Lord, just bless my mama soul, because when she was alive and I was in school, her and one of my good friends would have my kids every other Saturday. They would take turns, and I would spend 4 hours at the library. So I would leave like I was going to work and go to the library and study. Every day I went to school at least an hour ahead, and I stayed at least an hour after. And because when I got home, I had to like cook, clean, be a mom, be a wife, and I could get a little bit of studying in by 10 o'clock, but I was a big believer in sleep. I sleep. So even if it was a big exam, I didn't believe in studying until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I always got dressed best on exam days because I felt if I looked good, I tested good. And it was true, like it always happened. But I just do remember I was doing something that I felt was impossible, because not only was I the first person in my family to attend college, I was the first person in my family to attend any type of graduate school. No one had made it this far. I thought the world was going to end afterwards. Like, I was dealing with so much anxiety that was not diagnosed then, but it's clearly diagnosed now. Because I feel like I didn't know what was going to happen on the other side of it. And it wasn't normal. Like, this wasn't the normal. In my family, that wasn't the normal. In my surroundings, that wasn't the normal. I knew a lot of people who went off to college and came right back after the first year and didn't do anything immediately. Like, some people just never did anything. And that was a lot of people that I knew. There were people who didn't do it probably as fast as I did, and they were able to do something. But it was a scary feeling to be on this side and not quite know how it was going to work out. So I decided to, I feel like that was part of the reason why I got into mentoring, aspiring PA students, or even making these videos in the first place. Because I think like there's a lot that goes on behind. Like, people see the end result, but they don't see like the path and the journey. I will say, from being a CNA to being a PA, I went through a lot of hardships, like, in my career. And I believe that what happens in your life and in your relationships impacts how you make your decisions. I worked as a PA. I started out in neurosurgery. That was my very, very first job. Ooh, that was crazy. One day I have to go in about that experience on YouTube. But neurosurgery, I did the ER for a long time, and that was my baby, like, as a nurse. And now, like, that was one of the things I really, really liked. Then I did urgent care, urology, occupational medicine. And up until 2022, I worked in direct patient care. I will say that the things that kept me at a job was the ability to have some autonomy, a good support system, being valued and respected. I have dealt with some of the craziest things throughout my career, which is a whole nother video. Like, all the video ideas are coming that I'm gonna make for y'all because I'm behind. But there are definitely some things that I dealt with throughout my career that should be spoken about and shared, because the world ain't created equally for everybody, no matter your degree and credentials. Let's see. So to 2022, I worked in direct patient care, and I would say it was fine until the pandemic, y'all. Since 2022, I have worked in industry, as they call it. So I started out as in a biotech company, and now I work for a pharmaceutical company. And I made the switch out after getting my doctorate degree. So I will have to go into, like, why did I go get my doctorate? I never thought I was going to get my doctorate. I really got my doctorate because I wanted to go into health policy. And I believe that credentials are important, because when you come to the table and they see you look like this, you already are discredited. And I'm just speaking from experience. And I believe that credentials make up for some of those things, but at the end of the day, you still got disparities that you're gonna be dealing with. Anyway, so I got my doctorates, and I was not in a rush to find a different job. I was like, okay, I can go to health policy. That's kind of where I want to go. I could be an instructor, and I wanted to be careful in how I went about making my moves. But during the pandemic, baby, I worked in the suburbs. I was experiencing racism. I was just stressed working during the pandemic, dealing with personalities. I remember having fears that people would come in and come back because they were so upset because they didn't get something their way, or they were mad that they had to wear a mask. People were mean. People were mean. People were mean, and it was taking a toll on my mental health. And I needed to make a change that was best for me and my family. So I went to industry. And that is where I've been a medical science liaison now for the past 2 years and some change. I will say that, and I have to make more videos on that. I've made some videos about my transition, but I think I need to make different videos about my transition on the pharma side, right? Because I was in diagnostics before, and I like to call it the Wild Wild West. But I need to like give perspective of where I'm at now, right? Because I made that change and I made another change, and it's just so different. I am very fortunate. I am very grateful. I am very blessed to be in a position that I'm in. I work from home. I have some flexibility. I have some autonomy. I have some respect. And I am impacting the lives of so many people. And I want to just share. So I did all this. This is kind of the talk that I gave when I was at the medical college. And people, you know why people like to talk? Because I answer their real questions. I talk about real life, and I give them, I'm hoping that by me sharing, you know that you are qualified, you are capable, you are able. You may hit some bumps, you may hit some obstacles, you may hit, the path may go so sideways from what you envisioned to get where you want to go, but you can do it. You can live a good life. You can make good money. Anyhow, I owed y'all that. And I also haven't made videos because I hate editing. So I'm not really editing this. It's going to be long. It's going to be a little bit raw, but pick through and watch what you want to watch. And I need to turn my ear on because I can see I'm turning crazy and sweaty. But all right, y'all. I hope you liked it. Leave me something in the comments. Tell me your thoughts, what you want me to talk more about, all of that. I got you. Bye.